When you look at hip hop today and you look at the power involved with certain artists, and you just refer to them as gods, when you look at certain things like the drug culture that seems to have gotten bigger in hip hop over the last 5 years, because in the '90s it was, you didn't really see the same kind of drug culture. People smoked weed and so forth, but no one talked about sniffing coke. No one bragged about smoking crack. Whereas you fast forward to 2017, popping pills, doing Xans, doing Molly, drinking lean is in a very large portion of popular hip hop music. How do you feel about that?
Well, regardless of how I feel, the facts are what they are. And the fact, Brother Vlad, is that hip hop has been weaponized against the rise of the black man and woman. The U.S. government, after 1965, decided to control inner city black males in particular. Not just control, but biomedically control inner city black males as a consequence and in response to the urban rebellions of the late 60s, Watts 65, Detroit 67, and then in 68, 100 cities. The means by which this biomedical control of inner city black males was to be achieved was through what they called then psychopharmacological interventions. That's a big word, but get it, it's critical to your point. Psychopharmacological interventions. So let's parse those words. Psycho, mind. Pharmacological, pharmaceuticals, drugs, intervention. The means by which inner city black males were to be biomedically controlled was through the administration of drugs that will modify or control the mind and thus the behavior of inner city black males. And by the way, this is a governmental program that in 1992, the Bush 1 administration invested or put aside $400 million. What are the pharmaceuticals to be used to control the mind and behavior of inner city black males for the purpose of achieving biomedical control of inner city black males? They are this enhanced marijuana or weaponized marijuana, and the two magic bullets of this program is this weaponized marijuana and MDMA, which we call Molly, both of which were made chemical weapons by the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. Both Molly that's being popped is not what Merc designed in 1912, the German company that first synthesized MDMA. What Merc produced and let sit on the shelves, the U.S. Army Chemical Corps got a hold of in 1950 and began weaponizing it, and then with Dr. Alexander Shugin, successfully weaponized it and unleashed it into the black inner city. The same with this weaponized marijuana. The loud isn't natural cannabis. Natural cannabis is a holy herb. The plant that God planted in Central Asia absolutely is a righteous plant, a holy herb when used appropriately. Smoking it was never an appropriate use of the holy herb. But that's not what the rappers are rapping. That's not loud. Loud is government manipulated cannabis. Loud is THC enhanced cannabis. So weed and Molly are the two principal psychopharmaceutical agents used by the government to biomedically control inner city black males. That's why the weed and Molly culture is so extensive and deeply ingrained, and hip hop was weaponized. If weaponized marijuana and Molly are the bullets, hip hop is the gun. Hip hop has been weaponized against black people. And this is why we can show report. When all you hear is about loud, principally, and Molly, and during one period of time, the hip hop drug was loud. Now the hip hop drug is Molly, but marijuana never receded to the background. Molly just came forward to the foreground. So these two, weaponized marijuana and Molly, are the two bullets that this government prepared for the inner city black male in particular, and hip hop has been made the gun that delivers those bullets.
Now, as an NOI member, you're not allowed to do any drugs.
That is correct.
That correct?
That is correct.
Alcohol?
No, sir.
No.
No,
So you have not taken a drink or a smoke or anything in 25 years?
Ever in life.
Ever in life?
I have.
Okay.
No, I haven't ever in life, actually. Alcohol, smoked weed, cigarette, or drank alcohol. Now, I have to be honest, it wasn't necessarily a moral decision. I never drank alcohol because I hated drunk people. Because every bad experience I had when I was young, it was some drunk asshole at the root of it. And so that disinclined me from ever drinking. So it wasn't a moral issue at first. But upon coming into the Nation of Islam, I learned the deeper reasons why I should not smoke, drink, or eat pork. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother Vlad, taught us how to eat to live. The diet of black people today is our eating to die. The diet of the so-called Negro is an inheritance of the plantation. And when you add to our slave diet, and if a man won't treat you right, he won't feed you right. So much of black cuisine is inheritance from slave culture, given to us by a slave master to affect certain outcomes. The diet that our slave master gave to us was designed to affect certain outcomes. When he made pork and chitlins available to us, he knew what pork would do to us physiologically, neurologically. So the Honorable Elijah, we have black people, the so-called Negro, have a slave diet that's killing us. And then when you add on top of the slave diet, the recreational drugs that we didn't just wake up one day and say, I want to pop these pills. The drug culture of black America was imposed on us covertly by our enemies. So when you add that to the slave diet, we consume a diet of pure death. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us a diet of life, and life more abundantly. So we don't smoke, drink, eat pork, eat shrimp. We have a diet that's not based on moralizing. We have a diet that's based on the desire to live instead of die.
I feel you. Now, one of the things that you talked about was the feminization of the black man. That was actually how me and Jamar started doing our interviews, because it was right around the time that Kanye started wearing the skirts on stage, and Jamar had a opinion about that. How did you feel when Kanye rocked the skirt?
Not good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that's not hip hop to me. You understand what I'm saying? That really has no place in hip hop. And the only reason why an individual would do something like that is purely out of ego, arrogance, and lack of knowledge of themselves.
It's very deliberate. We have written a book, Understanding the Assault on the Black Man, Black Manhood, and Black Masculinity. The feminization of the Black male that is a phenomenon, by which I mean every observer, you don't even have to be a careful observer, must be taken aback by the phenomenal abrupt rise of Black homosexuality, of males, even though they're not outwardly homosexual, but they're happy to wear rompers. This transgenderism that is not just as it was in the 90s and 80s. There, you'll see one or two. But the community was non-friendly to homosexuality. Today, it's a phenomenon, and the community is propagandized to be very welcoming and even encouraging of not just homosexuality, but gender fluidity. That is not what we have documented, Brother Vlad. This phenomenon is absolutely not accidental. It is very deliberate. The psychopharmaceutical interventions that I just described, that the U.S. government put $400 million aside for, they are at the root of this phenomenon of feminized men. We have documented a whole host of gender bending chemicals that this government is concentrating in the city. And regarding this weaponized marijuana and Molly, I said those are the two bullets. See, both this weaponized marijuana, both loud and Molly, feminized the Black male. Say that again. Both loud and Molly feminized the Black male. Loud and Molly is a big contributor to the feminizing phenomenon that we see. This weaponized marijuana is THC, it's enhanced THC content, assaults the testosterone of men, and the smoke at the end of that joint produces chemicals, phenols, that are estrogenic. And so the smoking of a joint or a blunt lowers testosterone, increases estrogen. And so that's why you have so much femininity even in the very physiology of this young generation of Black males, the millennial generation and beyond, because they started smoking younger than my generation did. And it is a fact that young males who start smoking before 16, the effect of that THC on the body is more noticeable. So we have young boys where it's hard to find boys with robustly masculine physiologies. You have Black males whose physiologies that they're so delicate in their frame. That's because that THC taken in so early and over a long period of time inhibits the development of secondary masculine features. What does Molly do? Molly does two things. It inhibits brain serotonin. And brain serotonin is the lid on our appetites, including sexual appetites. And that's been demonstrated in laboratories that by artificially lowering brain serotonin, you can unleash the appetites, including sexual appetites of lab animals. And so it's documented that artificially lowered serotonin induces hypersexuality that morphs into or crosses into homosexuality. Molly, or MDMA, releases oxytocin, the love, the cuddle hormone. And I close on this, Brother Vlad. Molly was first, the weaponized MDMA was first dropped in a gay black club in Chicago in 1972, the Warehouse. It was first called Adam. And I repeat, that weaponized MDMA is the brainchild of Dr. Alexander Shulgin that collaborated with the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. That Molly was first dropped among black homosexuals in Chicago. It was a love drug. Then they transitioned it. It went from Adam to this. It went from being a love drug in Chicago to a thug drug in Oakland. It went from being Adam to this. And so we have the rise of the homo thug, because Molly's effect on the brain, what it does to our neurochemistry, produces feminized men, and even produces feminized men, and enough of it can compel towards homosexuality. So it's not, in other words, it's not accidental. This feminized phenomenon is very deliberate by our enemies.